So, this is my introduction to a series I'll be doing on Heimskringla, which is also called the sagas of the Norwegian Kings. And it's a collection of sagas written during the High Middle Ages by Snorri Sturlason. And it covers the period from late Viking Age into Middle Ages. Yeah, mostly focusing on the Norwegian kings at the time. And this is like one of the main saga collections in Norse, among the Norse sagas, and one of the main sources for what we know and about the Viking kings and life at the time. I'm going to be reading short passages, and there are a couple of reasons for this in each video, because I'm reading my own translation, and I'd like to give a little bit of commentary for each little bit I read, so there's some context and maybe some closer explanations of words that might be difficult if you're not familiar with Scandinavian culture, language, or Norse saga literature. Also, since the reason why I'm translating myself is since it's not meant for publishing or anything, I don't have to really accommodate, for example, a target language or different things that publishers would have to take into consideration in order to make, you know, a generally readable translation. I don't need to really care so much about that. So I've just been fascinated by the idea of making a translation that to a higher degree keeps the original syntax, even though it might sound clunky and so forth at times, and maybe more literal translations of certain expressions, because I think it can bring non-Scandinavian readers or maybe a little bit closer to some of the temperament and humor you can find in this literature. I mean, like, for example, Norwegians have quite many words for snow, or there are even like several ways to say how you chopped somebody's head off. And you know, literal translations, well, semi-literal translations can kind of bring a little bit of that variety back in. And especially some of the kind of very dry and grim humor, I feel sometimes, in some cases, can be lost if you accommodate too much for the target language. So I guess it'll be understandable in English, but hopefully very understandable, but the language won't be fancy or anything, since I'm trying to stick closer to the original. Likewise, many times in poems, because they're so condensed, the Nordic poems, and so use so many time-specific metaphors, compound words, which we call kenninger, that are really, really hard, and sometimes just really hard to understand. And sometimes today most scholars and people who are interested in this, you know, it's hard to know what some of these kennings actually mean. But still, so in many translations, these kennings are also because maybe they want the poem to rhyme in English, and maybe they want to find metaphors that are similar in English language. And so a lot of these original words are changed in many translations. And I think that's nice, but it's nice also to have this other version where it's very strict and close to, as much as I think, you know, is sane to the original. Also because, again, the original words and compound words are really strong images, have strong images. So that's why I'm doing the translation. And why it will be in smaller chunks. And I think for people who don't know so much about this, if they come on these videos, then they'll get, you know, some nice context to what they're hearing. And I'll make this text available. And going along, when I've done videos with larger chunks, I'll combine them, so it'll be possible to hear, for example, Ynglinga saga in one chunk and another saga in one big chunk. It's almost like an audiobook. And there's a second reason why I'm doing this, is because although it's really nice with all the TV series and video games that look at older cultures and also the Nordic culture, for commercialization with commercialization and goals in mind, they make very many accommodations to modern life, modern sensibilities, modern politics, all these kind of things, which and what they think people are interested in. If you look like at a series like Vikings, of course there was drink and there was violence in the Viking Age, but not like that. And you can read in many sagas that drink was a big problem in society, as it is today, and so kings would, you know, it was looked down upon a lot. And violence, of course, was much closer, because you didn't have such a strong central government with a violence monopoly. So to a high degree you had to take care of yourself and your family. So like if you look at old churches in Norway, they still, before you enter the church ground, there's a weapon house where the churchgoers would leave their weapons, because of course you couldn't bring a weapon into church. So it's very common to bear weapons. And but the violence that is portrayed in many of these adaptations is more shameless in a way, and you see, you couldn't just run around doing all kinds of shameless things at that time. There were very strict moral and ethic codes, and this part with the moral and ethic codes, and also the wisdom tradition, like you find in Håvamål, Odin's speech. There's some things there that are valuable today, and you know, can bring light to what it is to lead an honorable and loyal life. I mean, yeah. So that's it, and yeah, hope you will enjoy it.